Okay, welcome to the Spiritual Revolution podcast. I'm Jill Ogle, and today I have with me Nick Musica, who is an animal communicator. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so pleased to meet you. I've got my little animal running around at my feet at the moment.
Oh, cool. Who do you have over there?
I have Ollie. He's a little Pomeranian.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about what you do and how you got there actually.
yeah. So, everything is so much clearer in hindsight, you
Yeah.
know? None of it makes sense at the time, and then in hindsight you go, "Oh, I see how this led to that and this led to that, and okay, now we're here. All right. I can
Yes.
follow those breadcrumbs, right?"
Yes.
Um, but this version of we'll call it the thing, right? That whatever it is that we want to call all the things that we talk about here, right? Uh because it started when I was 20, but this version of it showed up a couple of years ago
Okay.
when when my wife and I went to a psychic fair in Carlsbad in California where we live, and I sat down with a psychic medium, and I didn't psychic mediums were not on my list of things to believe at the time. Psychics, yes, I've been to psychics for a very long time. A psychic medium just didn't wasn't a thing.
Okay, that was
And
a
I
stretch, was it?
it was yeah, right. At the time it was a stretch, right?
Yeah.
Like it's sort of so funny,
Yeah.
right? So funny looking back.
Yeah.
Um, and so we go to this fair, and we walk around the floor, we don't see anyone. And then I remember saying to my wife, well, let's just approach it differently. Let's just walk around the opposite direction. And right in front of us was this sign that said psychic medium Adelita. And as much as I didn't believe in mediums, I thought she'd be good for my wife for whatever reason. And I said, "Hey, Jewel, what do you think of her?" And my wife says, "That sounds great. Why don't you go first?" So I sat down for 15 minutes, and I thought I was sitting down to be like supportive husband and really looking forward to hearing about Julieta's session.
Yeah.
And that's really where my mind was. But I sit down, and Adelita starts the session by drawing this heart. And she says, "This is either a former romantic relationship or it's an animal." And like this, and what she just said, I'm like, it's not even registering what she says, really.
Mm, mm,
And she circles animal, and then she says, "You did too much." And I'm immediately super emotional, and I'm like, ah, shit, it's my cat. It's my cat Henry, who was 22 years old when he passed. The last 2 years of his life, back and forth to the vet, checking the food, checking hydrating him, blood work, like all the things to do to make it easy for a 20, 21-year-old cat, right? You're not solving anything. You're
mm,
treating the symptoms, right?
mm,
And so the summary you did too much was like spot on, right? Like now, like, and so now my reality is fast forwarding to this moment, like, oh, you
mm,
didn't believe it? Congratulations, now you do. Um, and she's continuing to do her thing. And she says, so my guides are now showing me Dr. Doolittle. They're showing me that you can talk to animals and it's going to be easy for you. And I thought, I never heard anything more truthful in my life. And I have no reason
mm.
at all to think that would be a thing
Yep.
ever, ever. But, fast forward to I go home and I do my typical meditation. And I just thought, well, let me see if I can find my living cat Chucky. Let me just see. And so, dropped into meditation. A lot of this is just intention,
Mm,
right? It's really very much intention based. And so I was like, I'm just going to go find him. It's going to be easy, right?
mm,
She said it was going to be easy. It should be easy. Um, and I see pretty suddenly this big bright light, and it's the type of light you would associate with like spirit guides and angels. Like it's formidable.
yep.
And my first reaction is absolutely not. My cat poops in a box, sometimes on the floor. No, no, this is my cat's not a high level being. My imagination, right? Even though I've seen things, heard things before, like this is my imagination.
Yeah, yeah.
And and so I call her up and I tell her, like, this isn't easy. It's not even working. And she's like, well, you're expecting things to show up in a very specific way. It's not
Mm,
how this works.
mm,
Be the channel, what you get is what you get. Okay, makes
yep.
sense. So I decided to give it a second shot. And I buy animal communication books, and I get a couple sessions to try to figure out what this with animal communicators to like try to figure out how does this work? What does it even look like? I didn't even give
Yes.
that a second of a thought, right? I thought this is a thing, but I had no idea what it would look like. And as I'm about to go to a session, very much like this on Zoom, I get up from my dining room table over there, and I see this flash, this quick flash. It's a scene out of Return of the Jedi. And for folks who know the movie, there's a scene at the end where the hero of the story, Luke Skywalker, is sitting there and he sees the ghost of Obi-Wan and Yoda, his mentor and his mentor's mentor. And I realize I'm being shown this student-teacher relationship, and I know it's coming
Mm.
from Chucky. But that's not the crazy part, right? The crazy part is he's the teacher and I'm the student. It's very clear what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I sit down with this animal communicator, and she's like, Chucky, do you know who he is to you? And I was like, yeah. So now we're talking for the next half hour of he came here to open me up, and he's a little teacher and all these things, right? So I work with people on connecting with, talking to their animals who are really in service to them. Like a lot of people come to me and they're like, help me help my animal. And the conversation is really the animal helping the human,
Mm.
right? So that's what I do, as well as help people with their own path, right?
Mm.
Because it's way easier, be it intuition, psychic skills, whatever, however you want to call it,
Mm.
baseball, like whatever the thing is that you want to get better at, it's way easier to find someone who's done it before, who can really give you one-to-one mentorship
Yeah.
to get you where you want to go faster. You could read books, you can take online courses. Yes, they're not helpful,
Mm.
but the fast path is working with someone directly.
Yeah. 100%. And I think it's so important, like when I Ollie's my first dog that I've owned myself, and you know to see how much he mirrors me, and how much he actually triggers me and brings up, these
Oh,
unhealed
funny.
parts in me, like
Mm.
it was really, really fascinating at the beginning when I first got him, and I was realizing, really, wow, he's a mirror as well. It's not just the people around me,
Totally.
it's this little dude as well. And yeah, it's remarkable. Like, really, they are so powerful and they are so intelligent. And I think we can, certainly I did, can overlook that sometimes, and not really
Totally.
realize just, how incredible they are.
Yeah, I mean, I dismissed the introduction that Chucky gave me, right? Like,
mm,
big bright light, not you, buddy. Right? Like, totally dismissed it, right?
yeah.
And so, like, mirroring behavior, like, there's the easiest, most common way animals teach us, like, on a daily basis,
Mm,
whether we're paying attention or not, is with mirroring and modeling behavior,
yeah. Yeah.
right? So there was a woman who showed up for me, and she came to me, a client. She came to me because her dog was biting people, and she's like, "Can you tell my dog to stop biting people?" No, I can't. That's not how this works, right? But what I promise to do for everyone is you give me questions, I will ask the questions.
mm,
That's my promise to you. Sometimes the animals are like, yes, all the questions, I'll go through them all. And sometimes they're like, those questions are adorable. This is what I want to talk to you about, right?
mm,
And that was the case with this little chihuahua. I tuned into this little chihuahua and I heard, you need to ask her about her job. I said, well, why am I asking her about her job?
yeah.
Because that's what has to change. Okay.
Yeah.
So I get this young lady on the line, and she comes in, through Zoom like this, and she says, she doesn't. She says, "Did you talk to my dog?" And I go, "Mm-mm." Or no, I go, "Huh?" And she says, "Would tell him to stop biting people?" "Mm-mm." Well, what'd you talk about? What do you do for a living? I'm unemployed. No, you're not. How do you make money? I drive cars, private driver, Ubers, limousines, that type of thing. Well, how's that working out for you? Well, I have spinal issues. About an hour or two driving around in the car, my back's all busted up. My doctor tells me I shouldn't even be doing this. And so I tell her what the dog said, right? And as we're talking about that, and she came on hot. She came in just like
Mm,
mad,
mm,
just not a happy person, right?
mm,
So there's that mirroring behavior, right?
mm.
You're
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show you I'm mad.
Yeah.
I'm literally biting the dog. I'm literally biting people in their ankles. Like I'm diving on their ankles when you
Mm,
bring them in the house. I'm mad just like you.
yeah. And when you're in pain like that, anyone that's experienced chronic pain, it can really, really
Yeah,
mess with you. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
exhausting. It makes you cranky.
Yeah.
It's no good. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you shared that with her, did that land for her? Like, was that
Well, the thing that was even more important, and it's funny how information shows up,
Mm,
is when we were talking about this, I saw roses. I said, "So what do you do with roses?" And she said, "Well, I paint roses on vases, then I give them away to people." Oh, okay. Well, this is fun. Like, let's take a look at the pieces of information that have shown up so far. One is this thing that is physically causes you pain, makes you angry. Like
mm,
nothing great here.
mm,
Right? It may give you cash, right? It's how you support yourself, but it's not the right way to do it,
mm,
arguably. And then there's this other thing where you don't make any money, but it makes you feel good. It makes other people feel good.
mm,
These two things are showing up in contrast.
mm.
So what we do from here, I don't know, but less of this and more of that.
Yeah. And it's a great point because like life really isn't that difficult to work out. Um,
Hmm.
when you do things that you enjoy, that have meaning, that energize you, your life goes that way, right? You
Yes,
know,
it does.
when
Yeah.
when when you do the things that you love your life.
Right.
Um,
Which could be hard. It could be scary. Like the things that
yeah,
really you're good at, the things that you really feel something about. I mean, those are really close to the heart, right? That's all about you. And so now you're putting yourself out there.
yeah,
What if someone doesn't like it?
yeah,
What if they reject me? What if they say it's garbage?
yeah.
They may say those things about the things you don't even like to do. Might as well be about the thing you do like to do,
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
right?
And people are judging themselves anyway. They're judging the reflection they see. They're not judging you. They're judging their
That's right.
reflections. So, as we start to sort of learn this, it just allows you to just be you and go after the things that you want to do. Um,
Totally. We're lucky. We live in Carlsbad, which is right next to Encinitas, California, and I want to say about a month ago, we were lucky to see a gentleman. His name is James Van Prague.
yeah,
He's been around. Yeah, yeah, he's fantastic, right? A
yeah.
medium. And one of the things that he said, and I'm like, oh, mental note, write this shit down. He's like, what people think about you is none of your business.
It's not.
Oh, such a wonderful phrase.
Yeah,
So wonderful.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's not any of your business, and because it's actually not about you, it's about them.
Yeah,
Anytime we judge, we're judging our reflection that we see in others. And so that really gives you permission to just be you and ignore the noise. And
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a great example with the Chihuahua, and they are known to be feisty little things.
Yes, they are. Very expressive.
Yeah, I actually really like them, and thought about getting one for Ollie as a pet. But so talk to me about some of your other experiences. How like how does it work? Does someone just come to you and say, I have a problem with my dog, my cat, and then kind of completely flip it around and you're like, well, in terms of like even for instance, like I think about my little friend with, he's had some health issues and things like this. Like, are you able to kind of get in and go, well, what he's telling me is this, you keep feeding him the wrong food, or like, do you work on that kind of?
Um, That shows up sometimes, right? So there's three aspects of the animal that'll show up that I communicate with. It's the higher level. I mean, it's very similar to humans when we
Yeah,
get into it. The higher level self, there's, so like think teacher, master type of thing happening up there, right?
yeah.
Um, then there's the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's the body.
Yep.
So the body would be the portion that may talk about like the food's not making me feel good, or the personality, like my favorite toy, something like that.
Yep.
So those things do show up. Like I had, and you just reminded me of it when you said, I may want to get Ollie I think you just said a pet.
Yeah.
right? And I thought, may not be a good idea. So my process is I talk to the dogs on day one,
Mm.
the animals on day one, and then debrief the human on day two. And I had a client come back and she's like, I'm still having problems with these two dogs. Um, can you ask them these questions? Okay. And as I'm talking to one of the dogs, I heard, I'm not a babysitter. Right.
Funny.
And so I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? And I
Mm.
write a lot. Like if I take everything in notes in Excel. Like if I showed you my notes, you'd be like, what does any of this mean? Like
Mm.
what does can soda can mean? I don't know when I write it down, but I find out that the guy that this dog was spending time with was drinking a lot of soda. It
Yeah.
makes sense from the little dog's perspective, right?
Yeah. Mm.
So so this little dog that said, I'm not a babysitter. As I'm
Mm.
chatting with this young lady,
Mm.
she goes, I don't understand. I got this dog to spend time with this dog.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, that is the problem.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dog you got to spend time with this dog doesn't want to be the babysitter. This dog wants to spend time with you.
Mm.
Well,
Mhm.
I want to spend time with this other dog. Well, we're going to continue to have problems, right?
Mm.
Like this you're creating this triangle of
Mm.
attention that is not working,
Mm.
right? This dog wants attention from you. This dog is resentful of this other dog. You got this dog to be a babysitter.
Yeah.
Ah, I mean, like put that in human terms,
Yeah. And
right? Like,
that's a great way of
ugh,
looking at it, really. Like I hadn't actually looked at it in that way. And yeah, I mean, I obviously work during the day, and so even though Ollie gets, 3 walks a day, he lays around and he looks bored, and that distracts me, and I'm like, oh, I would love to get you a little friend so you can play, and but that might not be what he actually wants.
but also different, right? Like that intention. Let's go back to intention to get you a little friend you can play with
Mm.
versus someone who can baby like a pet for you. That's
Mm.
like now I have a responsibility, right?
Look after your pet.
Oh, like now I got to take that little thing now for a walk. Come on, right? Like the dynamic could be you could be setting up a dynamic in a way that you didn't intend to.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny. So you obviously a cat person. You've
I
spoken,
am.
yeah, spoken about your past cat and your current cat. Um,
Hmm.
what kind of led you down this path? Like apart from just that psychic thing, like is there any indicators from childhood?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, I was always interested in the broader topic, and so back in the day, like the like what these things did not exist. These conversations were not out there.
yeah.
The accessibility of all this information not out there. The multiple flavors. I like the
Yeah.
thing, but I don't like this person. I like that person talking about the thing. Like just not an option.
Mm.
The best we had at the time was the bookstores of Border and Barnes and Nobles, right? And they would have this, I don't even remember what the name of the section was, but I can remember like there was Edgar Casey books back there.
Mm.
There was self-help books back there. And there was like Anton LaVey's Black Bible back there. Like it was all just like mushed up in one, in one little section. It was just
New
weird. It was just
age.
weird. Yes, that was it. Thank you. Like
Yeah,
new age and self-help, I think was, there was a
yeah,
slash before self-help became its own category, right?
yeah,
Um, and so those are like you're flipping through Casey and then Tony Robbins or whoever it was at the time and then like Anton LaVey Black Book. You're like what like it was just weird, right? So but I remember doing that and just all of it was just interesting in
Mm.
some way because it was just different. It was
Mm.
there's this draw to it. I don't know why.
Mm.
And I remember my dad speaking about Casey. He I found this book like The Lost City of Atlantis by Edgar Casey or by based on the Edgar Casey readings
Mhm.
and I was like, what is this? And he's like, you should just read it. And it was the first time that I heard the word reincarnation. And I thought, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just like almost like when Adelita was like, you're gonna talk to animals. And I was like, yes, of course I will. It's like that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember my mother going to a psychic when I was, I don't know, 14, 15. And I grew up in New Jersey where you got your license at 17. And I wanted my license so I can go drive to go to the psychic. I remember thinking about that. And so
Wow.
I saw him for a couple years.
Yeah.
And it took 25 until meditation became a thing for me
Mm,
that I understood his comment when I asked him, I don't understand why sometimes when we're finished, I feel high as a kite. Like I feel like I feel like I smoked weed. Like I don't understand. And he said, well, that's because you go deep into the meditation. And I said, oh, okay, that makes sense.
mm,
Thinking, I have no idea what that means.
mm.
And now doing it as a practice, I mean, sometimes I feel giddy, sometimes the energy is moving, but like
Yeah.
to go deep into it and feel like you're on something,
Yeah.
not uncommon,
Yeah. A
right?
euphoria. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've had these experiences myself. Um, you've mentioned a couple of times, when you had the psychic reading and also, talking with this guy. There's oh, sorry, about the reincarnation. I,
Yeah.
I feel like there is this kind of knowing when you hear a truth, it when
Yes.
you hear something and you're like, it just goes in and it's like, yes, like that, there is a truth there for me. I've not, it's more of a remembering, if I could say it that way. You've
Mm,
heard it before, you know this to be true, and you're actually now remembering it in this lifetime.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's important for people to hear too, because I think on this path, like we can think we're a little crazy at times, because we're not the norm, and we have these really unusual experiences at times. However, I think when and it does just land for you like that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And yeah, the reason I asked you about, sort of going back through childhood, I guess my work with helping people find their purpose and things like this,
Mm,
um, there's always clues. There's always these themes throughout our lifetime that are kind of, they're just always there. Like you're always
mhm.
working towards this purpose. And even if it's not clear to us at the time, if we do sit there and go back and look back over our lifetime, we can actually find out what our purpose is, simply because like, oh yeah, when I was a child I would read these books, and when I was a child I would watch these movies, and you know
Yeah.
and these,
Yeah.
if you can get really present and start to find the recurring themes, then it's always there for you to find. It's just that we're so clouded with other people's judgments, what society thinks we should do, what our family thinks we should do. And it sounds to me like your family is really quite open-minded, to introduce these concepts to you at a young age, which,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there was any intention around it other than they were curious of those things.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I went to Catholic school for 12 years,
Okay.
12 full years. Um, and there was no talk of Edgar Cayce or reincarnation other
Mm,
than in religions of the world, but that wasn't necessarily our
yeah,
religion, right?
yeah,
Um, and psychic, like now you're talking about people who talk to depending on who you talk to. Now you're
yeah.
talking about people who talk to, demons and things like
Mm,
that. Right?
mm,
It gets a
yeah,
little dogmatic in some groups.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, it was which wasn't mine.
Mm.
Wasn't my
No, no,
upbringing,
no.
but
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So thanks for being on the show. Let me ask you, what does a spiritual revolution mean to you?
I think for me specifically, I think there's really two parts to it. I think it's um your own experiences of what is true for you,
Mm,
right? And that's not necessarily an easy thing for a lot of people, right? A lot of people stuff it down. A lot of people push it away. You know, everything ranging from I see dead people to I'm empathetic. I'm an
mm,
empath. Right? A
mm.
lot like it's very uncomfortable, or people poo-poo those experiences, and now you make them not real for yourself, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
And I did that. I remember being empathetic, and I remember the instance I thought that is too uncomfortable
Mm.
to experience on a consistent basis. Like I don't, and it was really like a switch of I don't like it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't like it, and it went away.
Yeah.
And then it like I'm still here, right? I'm like, and it shows up. It like you can't repress it. I mean, you can, but you'll drive yourself crazy.
Mm.
So there's a real piece of standing in your truth around what we're talking about and
Mm.
accepting self,
Mm. Oh, 100%.
right?
That's absolutely. Yeah.
And then I think the other piece is, despite what the world says, despite the the goings ons in the world,
Mm.
and you know, turn on your favorite or non-favorite news channel, however you feel about it, you will see something on there that you do not like. You will see something on there where you question humanity,
Of course.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what is this bigger picture,
Mm.
right? Like how can you believe in this and feel this way when
Mm.
that is going on? And that contrast
Mm.
um, is tricky. It's a slippery slope, I think.
Mm.
So it really needs to start with yourself and what are the things, what's the biggest impact? Like, what can you do? What can you do from here to here to here? And like, that may just not be your problem.
Mm.
It just may not be your responsibility. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying to close your eyes and ostrich, right? But it may not be your responsibility. There may be other things that you could be more impactful.
Mm.
And then, that ripple and that ripple and then that ripple and that ripple. Because once you touch one person, they touch another person, right? It can spread out like that.
Yeah. And, I think it was Alan Watts that said, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And so we're seeing the world through our own judgments, our own perceptions. And, either we believe in a divine universe or we don't. And if we do, then we have to understand that we're here to experience the duality. We're here to experience the light and the dark and the good and the bad. And we're spiritual beings, experiencing this human kind of level. And it's really our ability to be okay with the world around us demonstrates our emotional resilience. It demonstrates how much faith we actually do have in the divine. And again, that's not to say put your head in the sand or, don't stand up for what you believe in or, let things happen that you don't agree with or whatever. But it is understanding that there is a bigger picture at play. And that is that our
That's
souls
right.
came here to play and experience. And at a human level, we can look at things and say, oh my God, this is awful. But at a higher level, we can see that actually no, these things are all serving us. And every time we've experienced a catastrophe, we've actually grown through that, and it's helped us become more of who we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes, and I talk about this quite a bit in some of the spiritual communities, I think a lot of people have this attachment to everything being um, love and light and this one-sided reality. And you just cannot have that here. Like we're here to experience that and the other, and to be able to love it all. And that's actually when we transmute the dark into the light.
Yeah. I mean, we are having a human experience,
Yeah,
and all those things are part of it, right? Which is not to say that like you're not the same person as you were when you were born. You're not the
of
same.
course. Yes.
You don't do the same things the same way. You learn skills, you got better, right? Your judgment has gotten better, your discernment's gotten better, right? So
Mm.
maybe we are, as a whole people,
Mm.
maybe that's the path we're on, right? So it's
Absolutely.
way less of a but, right? Spirituality, but look at the world imploding all around us.
Mm.
Maybe it's a yes and, right? And that's
Yeah.
hard to hold,
Mm.
right? But that contrast is part of that human experience.
For sure.
We signed up for this.
For sure. And I know from working with people, that when you can accept that, you actually have more emotional resilience, because you don't expect things to be just this one-sided all the time. And if there's any negativity that you just cannot handle it, this idea of, yeah.
Well, there's a wonderful being a little snarky and sarcastic. There's a wonderful coping mechanism that spiritual people go through regarding that dynamic, and it's called spiritual bypass.
Yep.
Right, right. The world is fine. I will be like this.
I'm just going to high vibe and think positive.
I will only crash emotionally and cry myself to sleep when I'm alone. I will keep
Yes.
my drug habit to myself. Right,
My
ah,
Instagram
like
looks great.
yeah. Yeah, I may feel terrible, but how does my hair really look? Oh,
Mm,
I'm having a bad hair day. Oh my God. Like
yeah.
it's it's what it is. It's what
Yeah.
it is. We
I
get to think about it and do something about it as best we can.
totally. And I can only laugh and we say take the piss here in Australia. I can only take the piss out of it because that was me, like I went through that whole thing of, trying to be positive all the time and thinking I had to be this high vibe, perfect version. But that's not even close to being it. It's so far from the
Yeah.
truth. It's
I
yeah.
mean, I do think there's an aspect of choosing the high vibe despite the things that are happening, but not out of not out of um, feeling uncomfortable about it. Right? Like what they're two different paths. They may look a little similar on the outside, but one is in spite of all the things, I'm going to show up the way that I need to show up, that I want to show up, that is the best way to show up. It's just the best way to show up, right? Versus blinders on. I read it in a book, best way to show up. No, no, it's to hold that space
Yeah.
is effort, it's training, it is resilience. It's how long are we going to stay in the pool of poo and those emotional feelings versus realizing I don't need to get into this pool anymore.
And
Right?
if I do fall into the pool, that's okay because I know that I'm
Yes.
going to come back out,
And yes, and the time being in the pool
shortens.
and shortens and the frequency of falling in the pool
Yeah.
shortens until you
Yeah.
can just walk by the pool and go, it's just a pool
Yeah.
of garbage.
Yeah. And I think that the thing that keeps a lot of people stuck and in these cycles in these on these emotional roller coasters is every time they fall in the pool, it's like, oh my God, I've fallen in the pool again. What's wrong with me? I'm broken. And they go
That's
down
right.
this spiral of,
That's right.
but it's
The
like
self-identification just comes to a crash.
and it's just a pool, mate. It is just a
Yeah.
pool. Get out
Yeah.
of the pool.
Yeah, because
Go
it's not
again.
supposed to be like this. Well, it is.
It
This
is
is part of
because
it.
exactly. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened this way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's our job to make it better. And it starts with self.
Yeah.
And it's not putting your head in the sand.
No.
It's a choice to keep that vibration as high as you possibly can.
And that
Um,
that to me comes through an authentic showing up. It's an authenticity. It's not a joy or an elation. It's an authenticity. That is your highest vibration, when you can show up real. um
and a commitment,
mm,
right? It's a real commitment to whatever the thing that drives
mm,
that vibration in you,
mm.
that drives that higher self in you. Like if
Yeah.
you don't have a purpose, it's really easy to go, I'm just gonna fall back into that pool, right off the diving board. Right? Like, let me just fall back in it.
Totally.
Because why no purpose? So it doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? But if you have something that's driving you and you have a
Absolutely.
purpose and something you want to create that you see value in, that needs to be shared with others, that you
Yeah.
are almost obsessed with creating, like
Yeah.
you cannot think about anything else. That is what you need to do on the planet with your time here.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't
Different.
agree more. That's one of the first things that I do with people, whether they're sick or, emotionally, physically, doesn't matter. It's finding that purpose because, that is your North Star. That's your guiding light in this lifetime. That's your inner compass, and
That's right.
and when you have that thing pulling you, um, the peripheral things don't matter as much, because you've got that thing that you're working towards. And that could be a business, it could be a job, it could be being a parent, it could be, it's not necessarily this big entrepreneurial healer or whatever.
No,
Excuse me, just for people listening to the call, it could be that it's your version of that.
that's right.
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as the next best thing for myself.
Yeah.
It could be deciding to get out of that pool.
Yeah.
It could be deciding not to take the bait on the next by not turning the news on because I know it spins me up and there's just nothing there for me.
Mm, yeah.
Like we talk all the time about what we're putting in our bodies, but what are we consuming with the information? Right there, something happens there.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a hypnosis. I think, many of us are aware of that now, for sure.
Yeah,
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 exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you, and I've loved having this conversation with you. Say hi to
so
your
fun.
cat for me.
Will do. Thank you, Jill. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, and I'll talk to you again real soon.
Okay.